Today's video is based on 5 must-do compound exercises I need you to start including in your strength training routine today. So these are exercises I personally do every week and that I include for most all of my online personal training clients. I wish women knew about these movements sooner and that they were doing them consistently because they really make a difference in your overall strength and definition. So if you are ready for a real challenge that's going to change your body, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to explain what are compound exercises and why you would include them in your workouts. Then I'm going to share with you those 5 that you really want to start doing now. So I'm going to break down technique and form and go through very extensive demos on how to do each movement so you really do stay safe and you're getting the most out of the exercises. A compound movement or a compound exercise is one that's going to use multiple muscle groups across your body at the same time. These workouts are super efficient because you really are engaging your whole body. So you're going to increase your metabolism, have a better caloric burn, you're going to increase your heart rate when you recruit more muscle groups. One of my favorite things about compound exercises is that they're functional. They're taking movements that you really use in life, things like bending down, picking things up, raising overhead. So movements that you're going to actually do, and they reinforce that and help you build strength and coordination in those areas. So my number 1 compound movement that you have to start including today are squats. Squats are one of the most effective compound exercises because they really do utilize a lot of your body. We're primarily talking about quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, calves, but there's also a lot of core stabilization that you get when you use squats. So you're really tightening, keeping your core nice and tight, and you're lifting your chest too. So compound movement, you're getting your whole body involved when you're doing a squat. So a back squat, I want you to start with the setup. And for the setup, you want the bar to be right about shoulder height. It might be a touch higher, touch lower, kind of depending on where it lines up with each of the nooks. But I like to have it right about shoulder height for the back squat. And I'm going to start these just with the bar because I want to make sure you get the setup right. So you're going to back into it if you have it from behind you, and grip comes out and around over to the top. You can have, I want your hands just a little bit wider than shoulder width, and we're going to line up feet shoulder width apart, toes just a touch turned out. So you can either go straight forward there or just turn them out a bit. Chest is lifted, abs are nice and tight. So to start the squat movement from a Smith machine, you're going to lift up and rotate forward on the bar. And let that come down, let the bar rest right at the base of your shoulders. As you're doing the back squat, you're going to sit down slowly, keeping your chest lifted and your line of sight straight ahead till you're right about horizontal with the ground. Then you're pushing back up to the top, nice and tight. So dropping down with the squat movement and back up, okay? So things to watch out for in a squat. Foot placement is first. So I want your feet shoulder width and toes are just a touch turned out. The other thing you're going to do is watch your knees. A lot of times you'll see people have their knees fall in towards each other. You really want to maintain, you don't want them to go out either. You want to maintain proper alignment as you come down and then back up through the movement. Now, what I like about a Smith squat is that it keeps you in line. It doesn't allow for your shoulders to dip forward like you might if you were doing a regular barbell squat. So let's add a touch of weight to this movement. Okay, so I have my plates on either side of the Smith machine, and pulling back up to the bar, we're going to go through that setup. So step back into it, shoulders against the bar, just below the base of your neck. Hands are gripping on, a little bit wider than shoulders, and you're rotating forward and down. From there, I step into position with my feet. Toes are very slightly turned out, and you're lifted. So you're going to go down, watching your knees, and back up. Down, and back up. Okay, that is a back squat and one of my favorite compound exercises for women. So some of the most common mistakes that I see women make with squats are things like dipping forward or leaning too far forward, which is a good reason that you would use a Smith machine. That'll keep your form and posture tall and won't allow you to dip down, which can put a lot of strain on your lower back. So that's something to watch out for with a squat. A couple other things are your knees. You don't want to let your knees come in towards each other or splay out. You really want to engage as you do that. And then finally, pressing through your heels. I really want you to press through your heels and be light in your toes. Okay, you can't tell, but I'm wiggling my toes. So when you're doing a squat, keep that pressure really applied through your heel as you're pushing back up. And then at the end, I want you to give it a little bit of a rotation under. So you're squatting nice and deep down. And as you come up, a little bit of a pelvic tilt underneath to end your squat movement. Couple benefits there, functionally, I love that squats are gonna help you throughout your whole life. Every time you stand up, you're squatting. Every time you bend down to lift things up, you're going through a squat motion. If you want to know more about squats in general and some of my favorite squatting variations, check that out in the show notes below. With my second must-do compound exercise, we're moving from quad strengtheners to hip hingers. We're going to go from squats to deadlifts. And deadlifts are an exercise that you either love or hate, but I'm hoping I can pull you into the love side on deadlifts because they are so good for you. Deadlifts are one of those compound movements that really engage your posterior chain. They're going to help with power, hypertrophy, and strength. Also, because deadlifts mimic the same functional movement as bending down and picking things up, you're going to get more coordinated and have better strength in those everyday kind of movements, which is going to help you avoid injuries. There's several different kinds of deadlifts that you can do. So a sumo deadlift is going to be wider with your toes turned out. A stiff leg deadlift will be more with your legs straight, not totally locked out though. You keep a very soft bend in your knees. But for a stiff leg deadlift, you're here. But today, I want to take you through the gold standard of all deadlifts, the Romanian deadlift. So I like to do these with a barbell. I'm going to start here. You really want to start with the setup on a Romanian deadlift. Chest is going to be lifted and core is tight. Coming down, and I want to start with the grip. Actually, let me put some weights on this bar. If you have it loaded, that's great. You can start out doing these with just a straight bar with no weight on it too. You want to line up so that your toes are underneath the bar, feet are shoulder width apart, hips are rolled under slightly, and your core is nice and tight. From here, you're going to squat down, keeping your chest lifted. I don't want you to dump over too far with your shoulders. So lift it and you're coming down. And as we reach to grip the barbell, you're going to use that overhand or pronate grip to hold on to the bar itself. Make sure your wrists are straight. So you want this straight line from wrist, elbow to your shoulders. Straight line down. Don't have your wrists back, kind of broken that way. So straight. In that deadlift setup, make sure that you remove the slack before you do the lift. What I mean by that is that little bit of wiggle that the barbell will give you between the plate and the barbell itself. So the way I do that is with that grip here, holding a pronate overhand grip, and it's that little lift. So lift that first before you actually do the movement. So from here, you adjust a little bit. I want your hips nice and low for this, and chest is actually going to come down as you grab the bar. Now, when you go to stand up for your deadlift, I really want you engaging hamstrings and glutes as you pull up. So this should not come from your lower back. Straight line in your lower back. Use that core to protect it and keep it engaged. So you're here with that pronate grip, hands down, and you're looking slightly down and forward. So weight in your heels, and from here you're going to stand up and roll under and back down. Touch lightly, don't let it slam down. I want you to use control the whole time. And back up, hips under, and back down.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about form and proper technique when you're doing the deadlift. You're gonna stand with your feet about hip width apart and your toes are pointed forward, or you can turn them out just slightly if you feel comfortable with that. The grip on the bar is going to be an overhand or pronate grip. If you find that you're really having trouble keeping hold of the bar, you can also use a mixed grip where you have one hand forward and one hand back. Make sure you keep your chest up, your shoulders lifted, and your core engaged. All right, so what are some common mistakes I see? Definitely avoid rounding your back. You want to maintain that neutral spine throughout the movement. You also don't want to lift with your lower back. You're focusing in on your hips and your legs. Finally, make sure that you're not jerking the bar up off the ground. You want to lift it in a smooth and controlled manner. If you want to find out more about how to do the stiff leg deadlift, make sure you check out that video in the notes below. I've talked a lot about lower body compound movements with squats and deadlifts, but now we're taking it to your upper body. This is going to be a bench press. So there's mixed feelings about bench press because some women feel like they don't really want to work chest muscles. But a bench press is this compound movement that is more than just chest. You're hitting your shoulders and your arms at the same time, and you're even engaging core. So don't skip out on an exercise like bench press. It's one that I was hesitant to do very often, but when I started including it, I noticed a big difference in how my upper body looked. So I'm gonna take you through a bench press. For a barbell bench press, you don't have to go very heavy. What I like to see is a concentrated movement as you go through. So the setup for this one, I'm gonna take an exercise bench, just a basic bench, and have that up to a rack. So today I've got my rack on my Smith machine, and this is the free bar here now. I wanna make sure you stay safe with this and that you protect your lower back. So we're gonna do just a small arch. A lot of times you'll see power lifters lifting their hips all the way up all the way up here. And I don't want that because that puts a lot of extra strain. So you're gonna keep your glutes, butt stays on the bench, shoulders slightly retract. So scapular retraction there as you're grabbing the bar, and feet are planted down nice and firm. So you have this little bit of an arch, not excessive, but not pressing totally flat either. So just more of a natural arch when you're doing the bench press. And you're gonna come up and off and keep your shoulder blades pulling together as you come down and back up. And your elbows are something I wanna watch. I don't want you splaying elbows out or keeping them turned too far in. A natural 45-degree angle is what you're looking for. Your grip on the bar should be just a bit wider than shoulders, and I want you to keep your wrist straight and the bar directly above your wrists and your elbows. My next compound movement is a bent over barbell row. Now, I hear from women a lot that really struggle with this movement. So a lot of my online training clients ask where they should feel the bent over row, or specifically how to do it or how much weight to use. This is one that is really a great compound movement because it's gonna hit our back and our shoulders while engaging our core, and it's a bit of an isometric contraction with your quads. Let's dive in, let's talk more about the form. So with this, I'm gonna use a full barbell. You can use no weight on that if you'd like, and you can build up over time. So I've got it right now set up for me. The first thing you're going to do is come up and grip the bar, right? Well, there's a lot of ways that you can grip the bar when we're talking about a bent over barbell row. You can have an overhand grip, which that pronate grip is really good. It's gonna give you a lot of stability, but there's talk about your thumb placement, right? So if you're wrapping around, that's going to give you more stability within the movement, but it places more strain on your forearms and your biceps. And I primarily want to feel this movement in your back. So if you take and do more of an overhand grip with your thumb on top, it allows you to have a straighter wrist, has more engagement, more recruitment of your back muscles and your lats rather than biceps and forearms. So for the bent over row, we're going to approach the bar, squat down, overhand grip here. Some people do like underhand grip, and actually that's a good point. If you would be interested in a video on overhand grip, underhand grip, what's the right grip in general, let me know in the comments. That would be a really good one for me to make too. So, okay, so with the bent over barbell row, come up, hold on, have that overhand grip. I like your thumb down and you're squatting to where your hips are low here and you're engaged right here. From there, you're gonna lift up and you're gonna keep your back nice and flat, elbows in tight, and you're pulling up, bringing the barbell right to the bottom of your rib cage. Think about the bottom of your bra line. That's where you're trying to let the barbell touch and come back down. With the bent over barbell row, I want you to make sure that your back stays nice and flat throughout. You don't want to be rounding down and placing extra strain on your upper or your lower back. And if you've got that rounded position here, you're really going to be putting strain on your back. So nice and flat from your shoulders straight through your hips. And you do that by tightening your core. So you want your core engaged and nice and tight when you're doing the rows. So thumbs here, bent up, and starting position is here, ending position is up. So that proper hip hinge too is something I want you to think about. Bend at your hips rather than your waist. What I mean by that is you're not bending here, you're really bending forward at your hip. So you can take, if you put your hand right at your hip bone and bend forward, you should feel that crease between your legs and your hips. That's the proper position that's going to give you the most support throughout the movement. So you can really keep a tight core as you're pulling. This is a slow, controlled, thoughtful movement that squeezes your shoulder blades and does that scapular retraction where you're really pulling together. So avoid doing things. You're not trying to pull it up here. It's a slow, thoughtful movement that squeezes your back muscles. I'll turn a little bit. So elbows stay in to your body, and you're really feeling that through your back. So slow, controlled, thoughtful with a bent over row. My compound exercise that you need to start including in your workouts now is a barbell thruster. We've worked lower body, we've worked upper body, now we're combining them all together. It's gonna work all the way from your toes up. So quads, hamstrings, calves, glutes, core, shoulders. Really, for just this one movement, you're getting a full body workout. What I love too is not only is this really efficient and effective, it's gonna help improve your coordination, and that's really important for women who are not just interested in functional fitness, but also in athletic performance. So let's dive in with a barbell thruster. Now, I started doing these back in my CrossFit days, and I have really loved them ever since because they are so incredibly effective. For a thruster, I'm gonna use a full barbell for this demonstration. Let me grab my barbell, and we're gonna kind of come down. So with the thruster, I'm gonna start setting that down. You can really start, some people like to start just with a PVC pipe or just with a very light bar because this really is a challenging movement. But what I want you to do with your thruster is you're gonna walk up to the bar, roll your hips slightly under, keep your core nice and tight, and feet are right at shoulder width apart. And you're standing directly in the middle of the bar. So for the setup here, we're gonna reach down, overhand grip, and you're gonna stand up with this. Chest is lifted nice and tall, and I'm gonna take and pull the bar up to a front rack position, like for a front squat. What I like to do with your foot position is go right about hip width, toes are slightly turned out, chest is lifted, and you're squatting down, pushing your hips back as you go until you get to horizontal, and then you're gonna explosively stand up and press overhead with the barbell. So rack back down to a front rack of a front squat here. So that position, elbows are up and in towards each other. So the thruster is a sit down into the squat and press up into an overhead press. Back down. A few watch outs with your barbell thruster. So I want you to avoid letting your back round too much. So as you're sitting down The bar is in that front rack position as you're coming down. If you tip over too far forward, or if you're using too heavy of a weight, you can be pulling down with your chest, and that can throw off your back. So when you're here, you want to keep your chest lifted, sit back into the squat, and don't let your shoulders round over or down, which can put excessive strain on your wrists, and you end up dumping forward. So you want to avoid that rounding. The other thing you want to avoid, just like in a regular squat, you don't let your knees cave in. Knees should stay aligned, straight forward, and avoid letting them come in too far or bowing out in that thruster. Now, a thruster is really an explosive movement. So as you come up, I want you pushing hard, but you have to be careful not to use too much momentum. This movement should be totally controlled. So here we're coming up, pulling. When you come down, you sit down, you are going to explode up, but it's all in control. And then control back to your shoulders. Down and up. And finally, I want to make sure that you don't let the barbell push out too far forward when you're doing the press part. So if I'm in this setup here, I want to avoid having the bar come out too far in front of me. So that would look like this. So you want to avoid pushing the bar so that it would be out here. It's better to keep that straight line in your wrists as you're going up with the press here and then coming back down. The continuous motion of transitioning from the squat to the overhead press is also going to challenge your body's stability and balance, while it enhances your core strength and improves your control overall. Thrusters are an intense, full body workout that is going to help you on your journey. There you have it. Those are my 5 must-do compound exercises that need to be in your routine today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, I would love it if you would hit like on that and subscribe. And then what's up next? Make sure you check out this video.